we have got to move on. We're going to come close to the end of the show. We want to talk, kind of compare and contrast the 53 of right now compared to what we did on Monday and going forward. So we are going to go ahead and hit you with our 53-man roster. Yeah, buddy. The official 53-man roster is out, ladies and gentlemen. If you're with us on Monday, you saw what we thought what we speculated was going to happen. And like we said at the beginning of the show, we weren't that far off. Certain things were pretty spot on. But there were some things that were kind of surprising. So, Will, I'm gonna have you kind of go down the list. Yeah. And we have our list of kind of what we thought, and and let's just go from there and talk about it.
Sure. So what we'll do is we'll go position by position. I'll kind of explain what we were predicting versus or what happened, and we can kind of say what we were predicting. And if there's anything in there that we like or didn't like, kind of dive into a little bit. Now I'm going to put up this disclaimer. Yeah, things are changing with this roster. Okay. Yeah. Had I not checked at 6 o'clock, I wouldn't have known about John Bostic already. So whether you're watching this live, things that may have changed. And if you're watching this later or listening to it later on the podcast, please don't yell at us for having wrong information because we're going based on 9 o'clock at night on Wednesday. This is what we know right now. And as I said, they really are switching some players out, which is kind of weird to me. Why are they switching so many players out? But we'll get into it. So let's start with quarterback. Hey, we aced this one. That was pretty darn easy. Got the 3. Wentz, Heineke, Howell in that order. So running back. So now don't make me go sing some Backstreet Boys and can you tell me why? But here's my question for you, Sean. So they picked Gibson, McKissick, Robinson, and Jonathan Williams. Yeah. Tell me why, Sean. We had you and Ab on this show. You two played running back in high school. Yep. I was in the stands in the band. Why am I the only one who had Jonathan Williams on the 53?
Oh my!
Why am I seeing this?
Will, you know your stuff, my friend. You see, we were in the game, so we weren't focused on other guys. We were focused on ourselves. You had the ESPN overhand look. You saw what was going on. Look. Yeah, hey, you were right. You're absolutely right. And with me, I know on Monday, I saw what you saw in the last game from Patterson, and it really kind of charged me. But I sat there and I thought about it after kind of talking about it and looking over the stuff. It's like outside of that last game, there wasn't anything that he really did to show us anything. And like you had said, he kind of had been missing for a while until that last game. So it doesn't surprise me, but yeah, you were definitely right. Williams, hey, shout out to him, made the cut.
Well, and I can't say that I saw it all myself, but I did hear from a couple reporters that said like he runs really well, and they're like he shows that he deserves to be on a roster somewhere. And so I just started noticing that he was getting in earlier than Patterson, and that made a difference to me. Yeah, when you're playing in the second quarter versus the second half in game number 1 and 2. That's what I saw, but we'll see there. So not too bad. Wide receiver, we're spot on, man. We got everybody. So that was good. McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, Brown, Sims, and Dax Mill. So we were on that. So where we got thrown off was the tight end. Yes. Not bad too. We had Logan, we had Bates, we had Cole Turner. We all had Armani Rogers. That was kind of easy. And then they decided to throw Curtis Hodges on there. Yeah. That kind of surprised me. What do you think about adding that 5th tight end?
Well, I mean, look, yeah, like you said, we all had kind of stuck with 4, and we're good with that. And to be honest, the top 3 are kind of solid. Like, with Logan Thomas and then Bates and Turner, those 3 are solid. And we always, it was kind of more of, they got these other guys have talent, but they're very raw. Kind of similar to what we were dealing with Samus, but Samus Reyes. It surprises me. I mean, maybe they saw so much from these guys. I mean, we have been talking about them all off season. We have been sitting here and touting these guys and saying, these guys really have some ability. They're young and, maybe they haven't got the schemes and everything down, but they have potential. And maybe that's what they saw. Maybe they felt like let's play defense. Let's keep these guys in house so they don't go somewhere else and shred us, a couple years down the line. So maybe that's what they saw. But yeah, keeping 5 tight ends to me is kind of honestly, it's one of those situations where I was kind of
what? What?
Like, are you serious? Like,
yeah, I know.
So maybe they like tight ends like I like O-linemen. Well, I don't know.
It must be. Well, it did surprise me. I thought you had a really good idea on Monday when you said Kendall Blanton. I know he was late to the roster. He was brought in because of injuries, so that's never a good sign. But he did have some experience, right. And now we've got 2 tight ends that have played in the NFL and 3 that have not. Yeah. And I started thinking, that's not a bad idea that Sean has about maybe they'd want to bring a guy in who has been there before. Right. That, and also Hodges showed out in shorts.
Yeah.
But he got outplayed in games by Rodgers. Right. So to me, I wasn't necessarily thinking that we needed to keep him on the 53. He was put him on the practice squad and stash this guy and let him develop type thing. So that definitely surprised me that they kept him around. Now I have heard that he's a little dinged up. So he's one of those, okay, so he's on the roster now, but is he a candidate to get put on injured reserve, designated return later, and they can bring in somebody else? And so come Sunday, September 12th, 11th, Sunday, September 11th, we will only have 4 tight ends. Is that would not surprise me.
Yeah, and look, you're not the only one. Shout out to Mr. Moral Support. Anton Benson hit me up Tuesday morning when we found out that Blanton had gotten cut. We're like, really? Because of the fact that it's like you said, at this point it was experience. We needed more experience, guys that have been there. So I don't know. Maybe they saw, maybe they were playing defense. Maybe they saw something from these guys. As you said, Hodges didn't do as much. Rodgers showed out in the last couple of preseason games, but Hodges was more in shorts, OTAs, that type of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they do it, but I think the biggest thing is just that it's so many. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why are you keeping the extra? Like,
right.
But again, this is not final. Guys might be coming out and going back in. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that was interesting to me. But yeah, who's next?
All right, so we got O-line, and we were on top of all this. The only thing we overestimated by 1. I think you and I might have had Keith Ishmael in there. Mm-hmm. Ab was thinking Wes Martin being brought back. They only kept 9. So we kept putting 10 on there, and so they didn't keep any of those guys. We know the starters, the Leno, Norwell, Roulier, Turner, Cosme. And then we got Lucas and Schweitzer, Sadiq Charles, and Chris Paul. To me, what I think by only having 9, I think that means that Trey Turner is closer to coming back than we realize. Yeah. Because I think that Wes Schweitzer is basically going to be the backup center for us. Right. Where that's why, you and I were putting Ishmael in there thinking he's our center. If, something happens to Roulier. But I think I'm kind of leaning towards seeing Trey Turner trot out there in week 1 as our starting right guard because Schweitzer can come in and play. Is kind of what I'm thinking there. And I also did hear that they mentioned how Ishmael's good technically, but he's not that strong. And Deron Payne is just manhandling him inside, and so it's kind of like this guy's ceiling is pretty low.
Right. He's always been a good fill-in, but he's not your main. He's not your main guy. So, yeah, that is definitely interesting. But that, yeah. And again, like, that's where it's kind of like you go 5 tight ends and you go only 9
offensive linemen. Right. How often? Who gets hurt more?
Right. Well, yeah. So it makes you think. It makes you think. But we're trying hard not to dive into where their minds were going because of how much turnover will be happening.
Fluidity of the roster.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, that definitely is surprising. But let's move on to the defensive line.
So we nailed this one. I think most of us said we were going to have 9. So our defensive ends are Sweat, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tubahill, F.A. Obata, and Shaka Toney. Yeah. All right. D tackles, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Fedarian Mathis, David Wise. Yeah. I think we might be 9 for 9 on that. I had that. I think you did too. Yeah. I think we debated whether William Bradley King or Shaka Toney. would make it. And obviously, I think Tony shows a little bit more in special teams, and he's got a little bit more wiggle. He's a little bit more speed.
Yes.
And so I think if you're going to keep one of the other, you kind of keep that guy as a pass rush only type player. Yeah. But, I don't love our depth. I'm not going to lie. I don't love it. It would be really nice when Chase Young comes back and they'll go. But, there's rotational pieces there.
Yeah. And the thing about like Tony and Bradley King, I mean, there's not really – I mean, you talk about the speed as something that might be a deciding factor. But, I mean, I talked about – I think it was the Chiefs game where he had like 1.5 sacks. I mean, in a short sample size, that's a big deal, you getting that kind of production and getting to the quarterback. So, maybe that's one of the reasons they like what he has. But like you said, he's got that speed. One of our faster defensive ends. So that's something that you like to see him moving up. But we'll see what happens once, like you said, once Chase gets back.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the big one. Linebacker. And this is where I say, ain't nobody have these guys on the roster. So we kept 5 linebackers.
Yeah.
And this is where, like, I'm going to name them and then give you a little bit of current events breaking news. So we have Cole Holcomb, Jamin Davis, David Mayo, Milo Eifler, and Dejon Harris. Okay, meaning that we cut Kaliki Hudson. And that kind of so let's start with the 5 that started, and then we can break this down more.
Yeah.
Tell me what you hear. What are you thinking here?
What? Have I been looking at? I mean, have we been looking at something completely different? I mean, Eifler. We brought him back as just an extra body because we didn't want to just go with 4. But then you have him. I heard Mayo and Hudson got cut. Right.
Well, I'll give the current events.
Okay.
Just the 5 right now. Yeah, Mayo, Eifler, and Harris on the team as the backups.
And Harris,
Who?
Right. I don't even literally for Harris. Like I skipped over him even the other day because I was like, he hadn't done anything. He's not even. Who was this guy? So that makes no sense to me. I mean, obviously you have your 1 and 2 with Holcomb and Davis, but then it's just like what?
Yep.
So I'm at a loss of words, honestly.
Me too.
What are your thoughts, man?
Me too. Especially because what I was reading is folks like James Smith-Williams, Casey Toohill, and Shaka Toney can play special teams, which is where you would need some backup linebackers. And so they were saying, this team can afford to go with only 4 because their defensive linemen can do that. They're that athletic. Apparently not. Apparently we decided to keep more linebackers.
Yeah.
Now for the current events. And this is where I feel really bad. So, first off, you know who Milo Eifler is, don't you?
Oh, is that Mr. No Name?
He is. No picture. No name. Right. Nothing on, was it Monday Night Football?
Against Dallas.
Where they just get
who is this guy?
Then it's silence, and then they move on. Kendall Fuller, cornerback.
Right.
It's
and it's funny because I remember we talked about that before, and I remember I was like, all right, let me go look up his name, making up a Canva. And when you look up his name, there's 2 pictures. There's one of him just looking on the sidelines, with just this deer in headlights glare, and there's another one of the cutout, the shadow of him.
Yes.
They're like, who is this guy? Oh man. Wow. Yeah.
But he made the roster. So, I shout out to him, man. You go from being not known, not a picture, not a name to you're on the roster.
There you go, man.
So he posted a picture, saying God is good, all this stuff because he made the roster. Then Dejon Harris posted a picture thank God for all the blessings. Man, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Because David Mayo and Dejon Harris got cut this afternoon. So I'm like, oh, man, you just reached your dreams. This was the greatest feeling yesterday that he had. And it's over already. That's kind of harsh. That kind of just makes me wonder in my opinion, why give him that joy if you're looking to replace him?
Right. But then it also makes you think it takes kind of a lot of the weight out of the 53 cut now.
It does.
You know what I mean? Because if you're gonna, great, I made it just to be released the next day, and it's well, what? And I know what it's always said, by the coaches, and it'll be, you get tape on yourself, somebody else will pick you up, somebody else will look. I get that. But if I've been working all off season for this moment and you say, yes, you made it, just to say, no, you didn't, you know what I mean? It's like sitting here waiting in line for 2 hours to get into a club or an event and get in, and just then they say, okay, great, here's the door to get out. And it's like, what? You know what I mean? So that you know what? Since I did one, I got to do the other. This is how it makes me feel, man.
Really?
What do you say? Like, how do you console these guys? You know what I mean? That's just rough. It's a business, but that's just rough, man.
I hope they told him, okay, you've made this, but we've got a couple guys we're looking to bring in. And if we agree to terms, you're going to be cut. Only so he's not dreams dashed today, So that part stinks. But I'm also I'm shocked that they cut David Mayo.
Right.
All this talk of if when we go 4-3, he's the middle linebacker, and we cut him.
Right.
Explain that one. I have no idea.
I can't get that. And like you said, we've been talking about him all season. One of the things that we've been just praising him for is just the fact that, he might not necessarily have this, breakout abilities, otherworldly talent, but he is the quarterback of that defense. He's putting people in their spots. He knows where to go, where to put people. So, that was a benefit. And obviously the special teams prowess. So it's kind of it just makes you just baffled. What are y'all looking at? What are you looking for? Unless, like you said, they're saying we're doing this for this day to have this on paper so we can submit it to the league. But we really still have eyes for X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. So, and who knows? Hopefully they do have that talk, but again, it's a business. So it's one of those type of things where it's you kind of have to expect that something like this could happen.
Right, right. So what it appears going into, today, tomorrow, we'll have 4 linebackers: Holcomb, Davis, John Bostic, and then Eifler. I'm not exactly sure. Which then leads us to corners, because there's been some transition there.
Right.
So we only had 4 corners. Which
Nate, it's not confirmed, but they're saying, well, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, it's not confirmed yet. The report is he'll sign tomorrow, that he's coming to DC. It's been reported by majority of the beat reporters for Washington. So yeah, could things change? Certainly, but it kind of seems like they're bringing him in.
It makes you think. I wonder if they had eyes on him you talked about them saying, we want to continue. We want to bring him back. We've been watching him. So maybe that's what their eyes were. If they're like, this is all we're going to have, well, we know this guy has ability. Maybe we want to go in this direction. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, go ahead with corners.
Yeah, so 4 corners, and that is not traditional. That is light. Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, we know. St. Juice, we knew. Those were the 3 locks. We kept 7th-round pick Christian Holmes out of Oklahoma State. We cut Corn Elder. We cut who was a training camp star in the beginning. Okay, games he didn't show up as much, but he made plays in training camp. We cut Danny Johnson.
Yeah.
Who, while I don't love him as a corner, he's a veteran. He's a kick returner.
Yeah.
He shows some versatility. He apparently is a guy that Ron really appreciates, likes, respects. He's kind of he's the Troy Apke type player that somehow makes the roster.
Right.
So that certainly was a surprise.
Speaking of which.
We'll get to that, the practice squad. So then we choose 4 corners.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
And again, that's a spot that we've dealt with injury as well. So, and what does William Jackson showed you thus far that makes you think, okay, we're solid, we're safe with this? You need to have other people coming. 4 is already light, but then it's just what?
So I got a theory, okay? And I was gonna say this on Monday when Nathan said, I think it's better that you develop what you have. Mm-hmm. I don't think they liked what they had, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think they felt, especially when we saw what happened to Danny Johnson against the Ravens. I'm hoping they got as pissed off at it as I did. And they said, we need better. I think Cornell Elder, made plays, but they're like, we need more talent.
Yeah.
So we went out and got it already. Okay. So the breaking news, we've signed Tariq Castro Fields from the Niners and Rashad Wild Goose from the Jets. Okay. It's a little bit of fun facts about these guys. Castro Fields is a local guy. He played at, I think it was Riverdale Baptist.
Okay.
All I know is on his announcement day in high school, he was choosing between Penn State and Maryland, and he chose Penn State. Probably made a good decision. Yeah. Sure, he had a great time at Penn State.
He's in the league,
right? He won a lot more games. But there was a lot of praise from the Niners when they drafted him in the 6th round. And he's got good size. He's almost 6'1". He's about 200 pounds. He's that, you and I like some of those bigger corners. He's got that. So it's kind of cool that a local guy is going to get a chance to, because he's on our 53. The other guy, Wild Goose, comes from Wisconsin, I believe. And apparently the Jets coach, Robert Saleh, really liked him, said he was versatile. And the fact that they didn't get him on their practice squad, he said that stings. We were hoping to keep this guy. So maybe there's something there. I respect Saleh a lot. I think he's a good mind. So I think what it tells us is they didn't like what they had in-house. Yeah. And they knew we got to find someone. And so they kind of pounce on some corners right here. So now we've got 4 linebackers, 6 corners, a little bit more traditional and what we were kind of thinking too.
Yeah, I could work with that. It definitely calms me down. And anytime you get a guy named Wild Goose, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Now, I will say this, Sean. Jimmy Moreland's out there.
Oh, JMU Jimmy, baby.
Come on now. And now
bring him back.
He's just gotten cut by his 3rd team. This is the Eagles. So this the road may be ending for JMU Jimmy, but he's out there, folks. Ron, if you're listening.
Hey, JMU Jimmy has made a little career for himself. All right. He's been around the block, and shout out to him. If you want to come back, sign a little $1-day, $2 contract, go ahead and knock it out, man. But definitely shout out to what he's been bringing to the table. But safety, free safety, or the rest of our secondary, what are you thinking?
We were 100% there. Cam Curl, Bobby McCain, Percy Butler, Derek Forrest, Jeremy Reeves. All 3 of us had that. I think the one that we all felt good about was Jeremy Reeves finally making the team. It's been 3 years where he doesn't make it, and at some point is up on the 53 later in the year. He always makes plays. Yeah. He was a guy that, we didn't talk about him earlier, but he made plays out there. You talked about it on Monday, how that I saw that same play. I'm like, whoa, who was that just made that play?
Right.
And it was a good tackle. It was a very nice play. So I'm happy for him. And he was excited to make the roster.
Oh yeah, and like what I was saying, it was one of those things where he did his job. He came up, he set the edge, and he shut it down right then and there. And it was just something that right to the point, right there. So it was something that I was very excited to see. But I want to say congratulations, but at the same time, it's like, don't get comfortable. Keep playing, because you just never know.
Right. So we've got our 50. Those are the 50. We know the extra 3. Our special teams, Sly, Way, and Cheese, the standouts there. So we've got our 50 that are going to be on there. We've kind of gone through some people that surprise you with cuts. Is there anybody else out there where you're like, I'd like for them to be looking at this position more, or I saw this guy and I think he'd be good on our practice squad?
Honestly, as long as we are still out, out on what's going on with Robinson, I want us to keep focused on running backs. I understand why we didn't get Sony Michel, because I think that would be more of a panic move for us, especially now knowing that Robinson could potentially see some time at some point this year. But running back is somewhere I still want to kind of keep our eyes open on. For me, obviously, in all offseason, it's been linebacker, but now they kind of seem like maybe they kind of know what direction they're going in. I mean, Bostic, I had already wiped my hands with him. I had already thought he was gone, and now the fact that we're potentially bringing him back tomorrow was kind of like, okay. Well,
I do like that. I'm glad we could use a veteran in there.
Well, exactly. And he knows, he's been around here. He's seen, kind of what we do. So it is a familiarity with that. So I like that. But it surprised me. But that kind of cut my decision to go to linebacker. But honestly, and I know we can't because he's signed for 2 years, but we got to keep our eyes on kickers. We have to. Now, nobody is available right now. We looked at the list. There's nobody that's really anything that's going to be better. But, we have realized that over the last couple of years and what continued through this preseason is we've gotten better moving the ball down the field. We can get the first downs or win the time of possession battle. But something happens when we get inside the 20, and it's like when you take two magnets and flip them over, and it's like we repel. We just we cannot seem to seal the deal in the red zone. And that's something that is stressing me out. So we're going to need to have a legitimate kicker to keep us in some games if we're not going to be outscoring people. So that's going to be interesting to see. But kicker is definitely where I'm going to. And running back is where just until I feel more comfortable with Robinson and his future, nothing. We're 1-2 games removed from Gibson's fumbling. So what leads me to believe that anything has changed?
Right.
You know what I mean? He had that great game where he was catching out of the backfield, and yes, that's great. But now he's going to be put right back to the position, right back in the place where he's running up between the tackles. And maybe that's why you bring Williams in. Maybe you have him run through the tackles and you just have McKissick and Gibson kind of come out of the backfield and tosses and, swing passes and screens and things of that nature. We don't know how they're going to play it, but running back for me, kicker for me, and linebacker, but not really linebacker. I'm, running back and kicker.
You think they might be solidified there? Yeah,
I think they know what they want at linebacker with the Bostic move if that comes through.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this. I'd love to have this guy on our practice squad, either of these two guys. I think it's always good to have extra arms on the team, just take a little bit of load off the starter, and both my guy from the Colts, Jack Cohn, was cut. So I'd be real interested in bringing him in. He's the 4-year starter, Wisconsin and Notre Dame. His ceiling is only to be a backup in his career. It's a low ceiling, very, very low ceiling, but it's like just keep him around developing him. The other one is the Eagles cut Carson Strong, who was considered to have the best arm in this draft. And again, I'm not trying to have him take Sam Howell's job. I don't think that's going to happen. But is it good to have someone else in camp who can throw it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought of is like, okay, so if Gibson needs to be a more focal point of the offense, that takes him away as a kick returner. Should we be looking that way? The Bills cut 2 guys, Tavon Austin. He's that electric guy that came from West Virginia, although he's been in the league forever and been a failure. He was the 8th overall pick.
Compared to what he was at West Virginia.
He was so good there. Yeah, exactly. And then the other one, I think this guy played at Virginia Tech, Raheem Blackshear.
Okay.
I think he's running, and he's supposed to be a kick returner. So it's kind of like, but then also you got to think about how often are we really return the ball? How often is the ball getting booted into the back of the end zone? So is it as necessary to replace that? There was the Dolphins cut somebody, a wide receiver that I went, his name is Preston Williams.
Okay.
And he's big, 6'5", 220 something. A couple of years ago, they were talking how he was going to be the best receiver on the team. And I don't know what happens. To me, honestly, it makes me wonder if there's attitude issues. But that is a new coach in there. He's trying to clean house and bring his own guys. But, I love Cam Sims, but it wouldn't hurt to have another big body on the team. We certainly wouldn't hurt to have possession guys other than tight ends. So, I don't think we're going to go after them, but they were names I saw. Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny that you mentioned kick returner, because that was definitely something, and I didn't touch on it, but it was something where it was just, you just sit back and think, damn, I wish we still had Carter.
I know.
DeAndre Carter. I mean, look, he had his. He only had one kick return, but in a league like we've talked about, where they're getting rid of the kickoff, essentially, they're leaning towards getting rid of it. It's prehistoric. You don't get kickoff returns, and him doing that and being a viable option in as a receiver.
Yeah.
It just stinks. Shout out to him, being with the Chargers and everything, but it just stinks because it's like, I like Milne. He doesn't really have any shimmy, but he's got a little speed to him. If we put Gibson there, okay, that's fine. But that is something that I was definitely like you, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a position where it was kind of like it wasn't a problem. If we would have paid him a couple dollars, because it wasn't no big name contract, we could have kept him on the team, and that's something that we won't even have to worry about. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, so that's perfect. It's kind of what I was thinking of, like when we talk about this, our 53 or the 50 that we're going to rely on. I look at some of these names and this depth, and I'm not impressed.
No.
I kind of feel like this is like roster malpractice going on.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, Ron, this is your third year. You told us year 3 is when you need to start seeing improvements. Our starters on paper look like we can make some plays and do some damage. But the depth is not something to be excited about.
No.
And the fact that we're having to sign corners off other teams to be on our 53 dress roster, that's concerning to me.
Yeah.
And this is the year 2 of this general manager, the co-GMs and Ron picking players, and like, you're doing all this scrambling? I don't know. It's not a good sign to be honest.
And so that brings up the question that we kind of caught that last week, but Nathan brought it up where he said, does Rivera have too much power? Is he too much in control of the situations? Because like you said, you're looking at this roster and some of these moves are like, did y'all just, we're good here. And let's just pick some names out of the hat, because some of these moves, especially in depth, it puts us in the position that we've been in for the last, now going on the third year, where if one of our starters goes down, there's going to be a glaring hole. And that's something that we've needed to address. We've needed to deal with that. We talked about it in the secondary. We talked about it in linebacker. And now we have potentially 4 linebackers, 6 corners. But at the same time, it's still like you said, like, what are we doing? We're just, glue and tape, trying to string this thing together. Like,
right.
This is when you have that glass half full and you just keep sipping it. Like, this is not getting better. It's not getting better, man. Oh man. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, that is as of today. As of Wednesday
at 9:50.
At 9:50, we don't know what's happened during this show, so some moves might have been made. But right now, that is our official 53-man roster. Definitely let us know your thoughts. Who do you think's going to still be on this team?
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to be the 53 that dresses week 1 against Jacksonville? It's going to be
what surprised you? All that stuff.
Yeah. Look, he said we will check in tomorrow for a new roster.
Probably.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.